Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take massive stacks of information, the articles, the research, your own notes, and really pull out the essential, unexpected insights you need to be perfectly informed.
Today, we're embarking on what is a really an intensely personal deep dive. We're focusing on a narrative that just shows us how tightly loyalty, profound personal trauma, and a massive concealed identity can be interwoven.
Yeah, it's a deep one. We are analyzing the life-altering choices made by two people whose connection, it starts as this, pure abstract emotion.
And it becomes a matter of life and death very, very quickly.
That's right. Our sources detail the converging lives of Ella Mackenzie and a man named Beckett Gentry. They're linked first by the anonymity of just, paper and pen.
And then they're bound by duty, by grief, and really by the ultimate crisis, a fight for a child's survival.
And the setting is a huge part of this. It's all set against the majestic, but also, incredibly isolated backdrop of Telluride, Colorado.
So our mission today, really, is to understand the nature of this dual bond, this strange connection that's forged between Ella and Beckett, who she only knows as chaos.
Exactly. We need to analyze how the high-stakes world of Tier 1 special operations just collided head-on with the desperate reality of motherhood and, frankly, small-town financial collapse.
And this isn't just a romance narrative, not at all. It's really a study in obligation and self-sacrifice, and I think most importantly, the psychological cost of maintaining a fundamental lie.
Okay, so let's start with the players in the setting, because you're right, their environment absolutely defines their struggle.
It does.
So first, we have Ella Mackenzie. She's 24 years old, and she is the quintessential self-made woman who is just trapped by her responsibilities.
And I mean trapped. She's a single mom to 5-year-old twins, Maisie and Colt.
Right. And on top of that, she inherited and now owns the Solitude B&B, which is this business that defines her entire world. She's just driven by this fierce sense of duty.
Yeah, she has this deep-seated belief that relying on anyone else it leads to disaster.
Yeah, she's learned that the hard way. And then we introduce Beckett Gentry. He's 28, a Tier 1 special operations soldier.
And we should probably clarify for people, Tier 1 isn't just elite. I mean, it implies this profound level of operational secrecy and emotional isolation.
Yes, which feeds perfectly into his other identity, his pen name, Chaos.
He's this anonymous pen pal. And Beckett, as a person, is really defined by his intense loyalty to his unit and now to a promise that he made to a dead friend.
And that friend is the bridge. He's Staff Sergeant Ryan Mackenzie, Ella's brother, who Beckett just called Mac.
Ryan is the crucial and tragic link between these two. His death is what sets the entire central conflict in motion.
It's what forces Beckett out of his isolated military world and directly into Ella's life. But, and this is the key, under completely false pretenses.
Which brings us to the core paradox. This is what drives the whole narrative. Ella experiences these two incredibly intense, but fundamentally contradictory connections with the same exact man.
So let's break that down. First, there's the purely emotional and intellectual bond she has with Chaos.
Right, the pen pal. She trusted him because he was physically thousands of miles away. He offered her this space that was just free from judgment, free from the local scrutiny of her small town.
And then second, you have the physical, obligatory, and frankly highly inconvenient bond with Beckett Gentry.
The loyal friend, her dead brother's best friend who was sent to fulfill a mission.
And the sources, they constantly emphasize this fracture. The words on paper built this deep, honest foundation of trust.
But the physical man she comes to depend on, he's built entirely on a lie of omission.
The timing is just everything. Had Beckett shown up as Beckett Gentry before she started writing to Chaos, I mean, the whole relationship would have been totally different.
Oh, absolutely. Probably easier in a way. But because that emotional intimacy was established first, the whole story now hinges on this one question. Will the lie required to fulfill the duty?
Will it ultimately destroy the trust that was established through all that honesty?
Exactly.
It is a phenomenal setup, and the hook is so immediate. A simple request for a faraway pen pal just evolves practically overnight into a military secret, profound grief, and this life-altering mission. The stakes are immense.
And they're immense because both characters are dealing with such profound isolation. That is the key.
Yeah.
Ella is isolated by her immense responsibility, right? Running a business, raising twins alone since she was 19.
And dealing with that small-town judgment that comes with being a young single mother.
For sure. And Beckett, on the other hand, is isolated by his profession and his trauma. He's the Tier 1 operator who has, and the sources say, zero connections outside his immediate unit.
His whole world is compartmentalized, which I think makes his emotional commitment to a pen pal all the more powerful.
It does. It really does.
So let's dig into that. Let's get into the written connection. Ella, chaos, and the philosophy of gravity. We have to understand the surprising intimacy that developed across, whole continents. It all starts with the pen pal pact.
Ella's motivations are, on the surface, pretty straightforward, but they're also very telling. She starts the correspondence because she desperately needs a safe place to vent away from the curious eyes of this tiny, nosy town.
Telluride is beautiful, but yeah, it's a fishbowl. And she needs an escape hatch for what she's really feeling.
And she sets these really strict boundaries right from the jump. She assures chaos she's looking for nothing more than a pen pal, a very faraway pen pal.
It's a defense mechanism, right? She has no time, no emotional capacity, and frankly, no trust left for men or romance after what happened to her.
We learned that very quickly. She became a single mother at 19 after the twins' sperm donor, as she calls him, just vanished. The second the pregnancy test was positive, he was gone.
And then she had to take over the family B&B, Solitude, at age 20 when her grandmother died. I mean, she is operating under this constant state of self-neglect.
Yeah, she describes herself as always doing what I have to and never what I really should be or what I want to. It's heartbreaking.
The sources mention her profound regret for writing this letter in pen. It's such a subtle detail, but it's so powerful. Why pen? Why does that matter so much?
Because pen is permanent. You can't erase it. It symbolizes a lack of retraction, a commitment. She realized, too late, that by writing in pen, she committed herself to being fully honest and uncensored with this total stranger.
She regretted being that vulnerable.
Exactly. But that vulnerability is precisely what drew Beckett in.
Which brings us to Chaos's response. It is perfectly tailored to her need for authenticity. He immediately admits he's not good with people and is lonely, saying he has zero connections to the world around me.
And he praises the pen, too. He sees it as that same commitment. He says she doesn't go back and censor yourself. She doesn't overthink. Just write what you mean.
So right there, that establishes this covenant of honesty, the very covenant that Beckett will later be forced to violate.
It really highlights the dual nature of their connection. She was seeking emotional safety from scrutiny. He was seeking a connection to the world he actively tried to avoid.
And this leads Chaos to ask this huge foundational question in his very first letter. He asks, what's it like to be the center of someone's universe?
It's a question that just exposes his fundamental lack of roots, of any family structure. He genuinely has no idea.
And Ella's response in letter #6. This is where we get the philosophical meat of the whole story. It's a brilliant analogy for trauma-induced control. She corrects him, and she does it fiercely. She says she is not the center.
Right. She says she is more like their gravity.
Keeping my children locked down tight, their feet on the ground, their path obvious.
That is such a profound definition of self-imposed function over self-identity. Ella is treating her family like a Newtonian system. It's reliable, it's predictable, it has fixed laws. She's doing that because the alternative, the chaos of loss she experienced, is just too terrifying.
And that trauma is laid out so clearly. She lost her father in Iraq and then her mom just a month later in a car accident.
So the loss wasn't just, sequential, it was catastrophic. It defined her entire adult life. And she says it outright. Her fear is what happens when the center doesn't exist anymore. Everything. Everyone falls out of orbit.
Wow. So she's internalized this idea that vulnerability leads to abandonment, to destruction.
Absolutely. So she avoids being the center, which is the vulnerable core. And instead, she adopts the role of the unmoving, reliable force, the gravity.
Gravity can't be removed. A center can.
Exactly. It's a control mechanism. It makes her feel safe, but it also makes her profoundly alone.
So how does Beckett respond to this really complex structure of trauma and control?
He responds by admitting he's never had gravity, never had roots. His life has been defined by instability. Even his military nickname Chaos, it comes from a bar brawl misunderstanding involving Ryan and their commanding officer's wife.
So he's Chaos in more ways than one.
He is. And he questions her. He asks if safety, her gravity, is truly comforting or if it's ultimately suffocating. He's probing the very foundation of her control mechanism. Maybe, unconsciously challenging her to admit that she might need to let go.
And that intimacy, it just escalates so quickly, even with the thousands of miles between them. By letter #21, Chaos reveals his unspoken longing.
Yeah, he acknowledges he is half in love with Ella just from her words. He's emotionally invested in the woman before he even knows the sound of her voice.
That speaks volumes about the raw authenticity of what she was putting on that paper.
It does. She poured her guarded soul into those letters, and Beckett, who struggles so intensely with face-to-face vulnerability, he just connected with that honesty immediately. He even urges her to date the library guy.
Right. He insists she deserves happiness and says she's no coward.
This part is crucial. He wants her to be happy, even if it means he loses her. He sees that her most attractive quality is her ability to give of herself, and he concludes, who wouldn't fall for you?
So this provides the vital context that Beckett Gentry, the man who arrives later, he's not starting from zero. He is an emotionally committed man who is now operating under a new, deceptive identity, trying to fulfill a mission for a woman he already loves.
Now, the pre-existing love just makes the impending lie of omission so much heavier for him and for the ultimate conflict. He's choosing duty and what he perceives as her safety over honesty, and he fully knows the potential destructive impact on the very foundation he cherishes.
A foundation of letters that comes crashing down because on the home front, life is just, well, it's quickly collapsing for Ella. So let's shift into life on the home front. Maisie's battle and Ella's financial and emotional collapse. We have to look at the business side first, because the financial decisions she made to protect her legacy are exactly what set her up for catastrophe when the medical bills hit.
That's the tragic irony of it all. Ella was a visionary. I mean, the Solitude B&B wasn't just some quaint family inn. She had mortgaged the 200-acre property to the hilt.
Risking everything.
Everything. On massive renovations and new cabins to turn it into a luxury resort. And it worked. It paid off. It earned a top 10 ranking in mountain vacations, Colorado's best of 2019. She succeeded spectacularly, but at maximum risk.
And that success came at this tremendous, almost lethal cost. The financial strain of those huge mortgage payments, compounded by the slow spring sludge off-season.
It just collided directly with the medical expenses. And the sources detail that in a desperate attempt to free up cash flow and just keep the B&B solvent, Ella had reduced her insurance.
As the lowest premium possible.
The lowest premium possible. She made a terrible but, an understandable choice that was rooted in her trauma. She focused on the tangible threat, the business failing, and she underinsured against the intangible threat of catastrophic illness.
A decision that now becomes the engine driving her desperation.
Absolutely.
And this financial fragility is the backdrop for the medical crisis. Maisie's diagnosis. It's the quiet twin, Maisie, who starts showing this constant hip pain. And their pediatrician, Dr. Franklin, he just dismisses it for 6 weeks.
Just writes it off as growing pains or psychosomatic issues.
That misdiagnosis is so crucial. It wasted valuable time, and it completely eroded Ella's trust in the established system. Even after the initial x-rays and bone scans came back clean, Ella insisted. She knew something was wrong.
That parent's primal certainty, she knew her daughter, and the system just failed to listen.
The escalation was harrowing. Maisie collapses on the playground, a 104.5 temperature. Ella has to bypass the local clinic, go straight to the bigger hospital in Montrose.
And the immediate findings are just devastating. An infection in the hip and alarmingly elevated white counts.
Initially, doctors suspect leukemia, the C word every parent fears. They call in the oncology team, but the bone marrow samples, they rule that out.
It takes 5 agonizing days. 5 days of countless tests before Dr. Hughes suggests testing for the incredibly rare neuroblastoma.
And the test confirmed the absolute worst. The final diagnosis was stage 4 neuroblastoma. We need to pause on this because the severity is it's staggering. The tumor was on her left adrenal gland and kidney?
And the cancer had taken over 90% of her bone marrow. It's a diagnosis that explains why the symptoms were so subtle at first and why the white count was so alarming. It was systemic, hidden, and incredibly aggressive.
The odds they gave Ella were just brutal. Maisie had only a 10% chance of surviving the year.
And the source material shows this definitive psychological shift in Ella at that moment. She doesn't crumble. She becomes a focused warrior. She had to focus on the 10. 10 was better than 9.
That statistic, that 10%, that becomes the new gravity for her life. It gives her a concrete enemy and a clear objective. Solitude, the financial strain, all of it.
It all became utterly unimportant.
She transforms into a medical expert overnight. She creates binders full of information. Research studies become her every waking moment.
This is Ella applying her control mechanism, her gravity, to the fight for her daughter's life. If she couldn't control the outcome, she could at least control her knowledge of the enemy.
The emotional pressure on the whole family was just immense. Ella adopts this powerful facade of strength. She refuses to cry for weeks, not even when Maisie's beautiful blonde hair starts falling out in clumps after the second chemo session.
And we really can't overlook the impact on Colt, the other half of her universe. Ella's guilt over Colt was just crushing. Missing his Thanksgiving play, constantly leaving him with the staff while Maisie was in Denver for treatment.
She swore she'd never let them down, but now she's forced to prioritize one twin's survival over the other's emotional stability.
Yeah, and the sources highlight this profoundly moving moment of solidarity that just cuts right through all that guilt. On his 6th birthday, Colt shaves his head.
Bald. To match his sister?
It's an act of just pure, selfless love. It's the highest expression of the loyalty that Ella cherishes. Colt is sacrificing his own identity to stand beside his sister.
A moment that should have given her some comfort, but the pressure just kept building until her breaking point.
And that breaking point hits on New Year's Eve. Uniforms arrive at her door. They deliver the news. Staff Sergeant Ryan McKenzie was killed in action.
And then the realization that Chaos's letters had abruptly stopped. It confirmed the worst. She had lost her only brother and the only emotional anchor she had allowed herself in years, the man who was half in love with her words.
This is the moment where Ella's whole philosophy of gravity is just utterly shattered. The center she worked so hard to maintain, the illusion of control, it's gone. The chaos she feared has arrived.
She's left completely alone with that 10% chance hanging over her head.
And she says it so simply, I broke.
That profound loss and catastrophic loneliness, it sets the stage perfectly for Beckett's secret mission. Duty, guilt, and the unwelcome arrival. The motivation for everything that follows is found in Ryan's final, desperate command to his best friend, which is detailed in letter #5.
This letter is the strategic heart of the whole narrative. Ryan, or Mac, he knew Beckett intimately. He knew about his survivor's guilt over the operation where Mac died, and he addresses it directly. He tells Beckett, get off the guilt train.
He knew that guilt was Beckett's most powerful motivator.
And he leverages it. He commands Beckett to forego his ETS date, his end of term of service, and go straight to Telluride.
And this wasn't a request. It was an order from a dying man to the one friend he knew would never, ever refuse a direct mission.
The mission statement is crystal clear, non-negotiable. Go take care of my sister, my family, do whatever you can to save my little Maisie. But crucially, Ryan also tries to provide the psychological antidote that Beckett so desperately needs. He assures Beckett he is worthy of love, of family, of home. He's directly attacking Beckett's deepest emotional wounds, his feelings of profound unworthiness.
So Ryan is giving Beckett this life-sustaining mission, but also a chance at redemption.
He is. But the source material also shows that this mission is born out of intense trauma and guilt for Beckett. His internal life is described as a hell of my own making.
Right. He implies he's the one who should have died. That internal question, I'm sorry it wasn't me, it's just haunting.
And his commitment to his Tier 1 unit was so absolute that he was denied leave for Mac's funeral. Why? Because of Havoc, his military working dog. They needed her, and she would only listen to me. His identity is just completely wrapped up in his function, not his feelings.
And this intense functional identity leads directly to his identity crisis when it comes to Ella. He realizes he must actively lie by omission to complete Ryan's mission.
Why? Because he remembers what she wrote in letter #6, her firm philosophical statement that she had never been able to give second chances when it comes to hurting the people I love.
So the stakes couldn't be clearer. Beckett knows that if he reveals he is Chaos, the man who emotionally abandoned her by disappearing right after Ryan's death, even though he had no choice,
she would instantly kick him out. He believes telling the truth would exile me just as quickly as her discovery of the lie.
But let's challenge that for a second. Isn't Ryan, however well-intentioned he was, effectively leveraging Beckett's guilt to force him into a mission that requires a fundamental act of deception toward his own sister?
That's the tension Ryan created. He absolutely prioritized the immediate safety of his sister and niece over the future emotional honesty of their relationship. He knew Beckett would protect them, even if it meant Beckett destroyed his own chance at happiness with Ella.
The mission comes first, just like they were trained.
Exactly. And Beckett, by accepting the mission, he accepts the burden of that lie. He chooses the lie of omission, believing it's the only ethical way to keep his promise to a dying man.
His arrival in Telluride, 4 months later, once he could finally get clearance, it's very calculated. It's strategic. He books a cabin for 7 months.
A 7-month lease. That is such a powerful nonverbal message. It shows a commitment that lasts until Maisie's diagnosis anniversary. It signals he's not just a tourist. He's anchoring himself to this town and to this crisis.
And Ella confronts him immediately. She asks directly about chaos. She's desperate for closure. And Beckett, he just gives her the classified non-answer. He was there, and that the details are classified.
Her reaction is completely understandable. She just scoffs. Classified, you're all the same. Just tell me if he's dead. I deserve to know.
This reaction just confirms all of Beckett's fears about what would happen if he was honest.
It does. She sees all military men as putting their unit loyalty above family loyalty, which is a belief rooted in losing her father and then her brother to the army.
But Beckett is firm. He commits physically and emotionally to the mission, even while he's accepting her hatred. He promises, I'm not going anywhere, you need anything, and it's yours, I'm here on Max.
It's a battle of wills, and it's built on this mutual, profound grief. Beckett silently accepts her scorn because, on some level, he believes he deserves it. And he knows he can only earn her trust by physically demonstrating the kind of unwavering, protective loyalty that chaos once provided through words.
Okay, so let's transition into operational support, navigating solitude and winning over Colt. Beckett isn't subtle about his new role. He immediately introduces himself and his rather formidable companion.
The assimilation process starts with the staff. You have Larry Fisher, the groundskeeper, and Ada, the house manager. They are immediately wary of this 7-month stay, and particularly of Havoc.
The 70-pound black Labrador retriever. Yeah, a military working dog is a bit of an operational liability in a luxury B&B.
A bit. Beckett has to lay out Havoc's credentials. Retired military working dog, Tier 1 special ops, trained in explosives and scenting people. He assures Ada she will only bite on my command or in my defense.
Larry, the pragmatic one, he kind of diffuses it. He just notes that since Beckett paid up front through November, he can stay in the Aspen cabin, which is due for new carpet next year anyway.
So Beckett, the highly trained operative, has to immediately start working on his soft skills. He remembers his vow to stop swearing, recognizing that swearing is a poor excuse for a crap vocabulary.
He knows he has to adapt if he's going to stay and help these kids.
He does. And his real breakthrough comes through Colt. Colt finds him down in his secluded cabin by the lake and approaches him with his highly protective skepticism.
He's 6, but he carries the burden of the missing man in the house. He tells Beckett, I don't let crazy people around my mama or my sister, and he misses Ryan so fiercely.
Beckett uses his most powerful asset here. Honesty about Mac. He lets Colt pet Havoc, he treats him with genuine respect, and he shares that Ryan was the closest thing I had to a brother.
Colt's the intuitive twin. He immediately recognizes that kindred spirit, or at least that tangible connection to his lost uncle.
He does. But the crucial act, the one that really begins to melt Ella's ice, happens when Beckett saves her from this crushing maternal guilt. Colt had a show and tell, and Ella.
She completely forgot, consumed by Maisie's looming surgery and the endless binder management.
Beckett steps in immediately. He drives Havoc to Colt's school for the demonstration, and it results in the coolest show and tell of the year.
Colt, just beaming with pride, declares that Beckett is kind of family. That is a massive compliment from a 6-year-old.
It signifies acceptance, commitment, and a child's world. And this act of selfless, low-key support, it just breaks through Ella's defenses. Even if she fights the romantic feelings, she cannot deny her gratitude.
But before she can relax, the pressure mounts again, this time with the school administration conflict.
Oh, this is a perfect display of the bureaucratic absurdity that just compounds tragedy. Ella faces the principal and the superintendent about Maisie's attendance. She's 710 hours out of the 900 minimum required for kindergarten.
And the administrators, they're worried about liability and the catastrophic illness, and they propose holding Maisie back a year or putting her in an at-home program.
They're viewing her life-threatening illness as an administrative problem. And Ella, who has just been pushed past her limit, finally unleashes all her built-up frustration. She snaps back that it wasn't a procedure, it was a 12-hour life-threatening surgery.
She just refuses to let them say Maisie isn't ready for kindergarten. She's defending her child with the ferocity of a parent who has nothing left to lose.
This whole emotional and logistical strain, it provides the context for Beckett's next strategic move. 3 hours after his tense conversation with Ella about this school crisis, Beckett becomes the newest part-time member of Telluride Mountain Rescue.
With Havoc.
With Havoc. And this move is strategic genius. It legitimizes his long stay. It gives him a purpose outside of just being Ella's charity case. It forces the community to see him as an asset.
And it aligns perfectly with his own need for a function-based identity. He's substituting one military structure for another civilian one, to avoid dealing with the intimacy required by the mission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's protecting her family by earning money and respect, which is vital to his character. He can't just be pitied. He has to earn his place, validating what Ryan said about him being worthy.
The lie gets tested again. Ella visits him late one night. She's driven by this need for certainty. She finally reads Ryan's letter, which confirms his mission.
And now she sees the extent of his loyalty, and it compels her to question his self-worth. She asks him, "Why don't you think you're worthy of love, of family?"
She's seen the hole in his armor. She recognizes the trauma that Ryan was talking about in the letter.
But Beckett is trained to deflect. He sticks rigidly to the mission parameters. He says Ryan was going to leave the army for her, and that he himself is not here for me, I'm here for you. He just maintains that wall.
Reinforcing the lie of omission. Because he knows revealing he's chaos would violate her one rule.
Absolutely. And this quiet confrontation, it's just rooted in all these suppressed truths, and it sets the stage for the true test of their bond.
Which moves us into the climax of crisis, surgery and the breakthrough of trust. Maisie's major life-threatening surgery is imminent, and the emotional stakes are just maximal.
At the hospital in Denver, the pressure is immense. And Maisie, being the intuitive, quiet twin, she senses her mother's anxiety. She makes a direct request of Beckett.
I don't want her to be alone.
And she makes him promise he won't leave.
A promise to a child. That is the ultimate command performance. Beckett, who's already bound by his promise to Ryan, now has this direct physical obligation to Maisie.
He agrees to stay, of course. Dismisses the lack of a proper bed with that veteran stoicism. I've slept in far worse conditions. His promise to Maisie becomes the physical foundation for his continued presence.
And then comes the brutal 11-hour wait. The surgery was estimated for 10 hours. When that clock passes, Ella's panic just mounts. She's pacing relentlessly, physically and mentally losing control.
And she's clutching Colt's pink bear. It's the proxy for Maisie, the symbol of the other half of her heart.
We really need to analyze this scene in depth. This is where their defense mechanisms just collide. Ella's control, her gravity, it's completely dissolving.
Meanwhile, Beckett is maintaining his stoicism, and he's using these specific mental control cues. Havoc, sunset on the mountains, Ella's smile, to block out his own painful, recurring memories.
He's engaging in military-grade emotional regulation.
He has to. He has to forcibly compartmentalize the horrific memories of Ryan's body, the bullet wound, the moment he felt utterly powerless. If he doesn't stay present for Ella, he'll fall back into his hell of my own making and he'll fail the mission.
Ella finally hits the wall, literally, stumbles against it, clutching that bear. It's the physical manifestation of her psychological collapse, and she finally admits her vulnerability.
I don't know how to give that control over to someone else.
Her entire philosophy of life, which required her to be the unwavering gravity, is failing. She's admitting she's not a constant, unmoving force.
And in that singular moment of breakdown, Beckett has to ignore every internal warning system he's built over years of trauma. He ignores his profound fear of attachment. He ignores the realization that he's only her default, the warm body that happened to be there.
Not her choice.
Not her choice. And he pulls her into an embrace.
And her response is the emotional climax of the entire story. She whispers, "Don't let go. I'd forgotten what this felt like. Being held together."
She is abandoning her philosophy of total independence. She's accepting comfort from the man she believes is a complete stranger, a stranger sent by duty.
It is the raw physical manifestation of the emotional connection she first developed with Chaos. The man who was half in love with her is finally able to hold her.
And she accepts his support because her pain is just too overwhelming to maintain her walls. It's the final surrender of her gravity analogy. She doesn't need to be the source of gravity. She needs someone else to hold her orbit steady.
The relief, when it finally arrives, is just total and overwhelming. The surgeon appears with the news. "We got it all. It was touch and go there for a while with her left kidney, but we managed to save it."
And Ella's breakdown is absolute. She just collapses, weeping hysterically on his lap, right there in the waiting room. This isn't happy tears. This is the physical release of months of impossible tension and strength.
And Beckett, the stoic Tier 1 operator, he just holds her, repeating the only truth he can offer her in that moment.
"I've got you. She's okay. You're both okay." He speaks in the present tense, giving her only what he can guarantee right now, his presence.
In the aftermath, after the successful surgery, Ella completely accepts his integration into her life. She lets him drive her and Maisie home again and again for checkups. Her self-imposed emotional dormancy is over.
Her friend Haley sees the change. She notes that Beckett is hot in a take me on the kitchen counter and let me bear your children kind of way.
And Ella, laughing for the first time in what seems like forever, she admits her sex drive, which had been dormant for 7 years, was reawakened by his physical, comforting, and protective presence.
This signifies her full emotional return to life. Maisie's survival, which was achieved with Beckett physically and emotionally at her side, it allows Ella to transition from the pure warrior mother back into a woman who is capable of love and attraction again.
The man who had been her anonymous emotional support, Chaos, is now her source of tangible physical protection and romantic possibility, Beckett Gentry.
The problem, of course, is that the two men are the same, and the future hinges on whether the depth of their physical connection can outweigh the betrayal of that original lie.
So as we conclude this deep dive, let's review the powerful key takeaways that emerge from this intense narrative of loyalty, trauma, and identity.
The first one has to be the cost of loyalty. Beckett traded his entire military career and accepted this self-inflicted exile just to honor Ryan's promise.
Yeah.
He actively accepted her scorn, her suspicion, and he constantly proved that his loyalty far surpasses the casual vacation Ella accused him of taking.
Yeah, his mission was never just about being there physically. It was about emotional endurance under the weight of a secret. And next, the necessity of vulnerability.
Right. Ella's survival and Maisie's recovery required her to abandon her lifelong philosophy of independence, of being the gravity. She had to let herself be held together by the very man she had initially rejected.
Her true strength was ultimately validated not by her ability to stand alone, but by her capacity to ask for and accept help when she reached her breaking point.
And finally, I think, Maisie's odds as focus. That terrifying 10% chance of survival, it provided a crucial, defined target for Ella. It transformed the diagnosis into an organized war strategy where she became a necessary expert on neuroblastoma.
She effectively channeled all of her immense grief and fear into actionable, protective energy for her daughter.
Exactly.
But this brings us right back to the core unresolved question that hangs over their fragile newfound trust. Beckett is still living under a fundamental lie of omission. Ella accepted him as Beckett Gentry, the loyal friend who stayed. What happens when she inevitably discovers he is also Chaos?
The man she allowed into her soul across thousands of miles, who then seemingly abandoned her when she needed him most.
The source material is absolutely clear on this. Ella despises intentional lies and deception. Her ex, her father, they both left with easy lies. And she stated explicitly she did not give second chances to people who hurt those she loved.
Beckett knows this. He knows that his truth has the potential to instantly destroy the fragile trust they've built through this crisis, despite all the good he has done since he arrived.
This leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the learner, to consider. Ryan's last letter told Beckett he was worthy of a home and a family. Considering Beckett's lifetime spent running from his past and Ella's profound fear of temporary people, is profound commitment defined by never leaving in the first place? Or is it defined by choosing to stay and face the consequences, the necessary discovery of the truth, even after the explicit mission, Maisie's survival, is accomplished?
The answer to that question will determine whether Beckett can finally achieve the gravity and the permanent home he has always lacked, or if his lifelong fear of attachment will be validated by the very woman he loves.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this intense exploration gave you some surprising insights into the profound emotional challenges faced when duty, identity, and the desperation of crisis collide.